Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gina Marie Agdarian. I am the author of The Letters in the Old House and The Faceless Woman, both available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. I will have a link to purchase both books in the description below. So today is another episode of Book Talk. If you're new here, this is a series where I talk about a book that I recently read, what I liked, what I didn't like, and ultimately help you determine if you would like to read this book. And if you are a bookworm like I am, subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of book reviews because I read a lot. So today I'm talking about Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. And this is, as you could probably tell from the title and from the cover here, it's a thriller. I do enjoy thrillers, but this one really missed the mark for me. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5, rounding it down to a 3. The writing wasn't bad, but it was, well, let me just tell you what it was about and then we can get into it. So this girl, or I should say this young woman, her name is Jet, and her real name is Margaret, but everybody calls her Jet. They never explain that, which kind of bothers me as to why she's called Jet, but absolutely nobody explains why she's called that. Lives in this town, Woodstock, Vermont. She's has a wealthy family. She is kind of just floating through life. She's 27. She kind of doesn't know what she wants to do with herself. She just broke up with her fiance or her boyfriend. I forgot if they were engaged or married or just dating. But she's just kind of floating through life, has no direction. On Halloween, she gets attacked by an unseen intruder. So she is attacked from the back in her own home. And her best friend, Billy, or her childhood best friend, Billy, saves her and calls 911. Unfortunately, with the way that Jet's injury is, she has the way that I guess the brain was hit. She has 1 week to live because there is now an aneurysm that's going to burst and kill her in a week. And she said, well, I've really never done anything with my life and I want to try to find out who killed me. So she's working with the cops, but she feels like the cops aren't doing enough, and she's doing her own detective work, and she is funny. She's got a real dark sense of humor, and there are some chuckles that I did get out of this book, so there are a few funny parts. Overall, the writing was a little bit weird because this is a British author, and I think the editor or somebody must have Americanized it, and there are certain things in the book that really just didn't sit right when she was, when I'm reading it, and the author had written some of this, it was just like, that doesn't read correctly, because I guess whatever she said in not that British English is so different from American English, but the expressions and words and certain things are a little bit different. So it was hard for me to kind of like put that aside as I was reading it. The other thing that really bothered me, and I think this was such a huge error on not only the author's part, but on the editor's part, is, I'm not kidding you, in almost every page of this book, it'll say so-and-so sniffed, like they'll say something and it'll say Jet sniffed. Everybody sniffs in this book, and I don't understand why that word was used so much. Instead of just saying, oh, Jet said or Jet asked or whatever, it was always that somebody sniffed, and it was such an overuse of the word, and it drove me nuts. And I don't understand why the author did that. I do know that the author consulted with a doctor to to write this book, which is great, and it shows. But then there are certain things, well, I'm not going to spoil the book, but there are certain parts of this book where I'm like, okay, a medical team would never let you just walk out of the hospital that way, or you would never be able to walk out of the hospital in the condition that you're in, or there were a lot of things that really just did not make sense. And I don't have a medical background, but just any common person would know that this is not, like, that's not normal, and that's not what happens. There were a few things with law enforcement that she did get incorrect. Nobody in their right mind, no police officer in their right mind would ever just drive somebody home who had been drinking and get them safely home, which happens at the beginning of the book, because that is a liability for the police department and for that officer. That would never happen. If somebody has been drinking, they are typically taken to the police station and picked up by somebody else, because the police department is not going to assume liability. That was a huge miss. I don't know if if this author had consulted law enforcement at all for this book, but if she didn't, she definitely should have. The story itself was cool, solving your own murder, creative, unique. Just a few of those things really did not sit right with me and kind of missed the mark and fell flat. And that's it. So I do recommend this. If you could put those aside, I mean, it's a good quick read. Not my favorite thriller that I've read, and it is a Good Morning America book club pick, but that doesn't really mean much these days because, I think anybody can just slap one of these on and it's, you know, this is typically paid for, as we all know. So anyway, Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book, you plan to read this book, or what your thoughts were. And as always, guys, happy reading.